911, where's the emergency?
Someone just got shot.
Is there a gun still there? The person who shot him still there?
I can't see one.
Someone just got shot right in front of us.
You guys need to come. You guys need to get here now.
Every year in the United States, thousands of people disappear from ordinary life in a single moment. Some are killed in gang shootings, some die during domestic arguments, and others are murdered by strangers or even by people they trusted most. But after the headlines disappear, another story begins. How many murders are actually solved? How many suspects are convicted? And how many innocent people may have been accused? This is not a story about politics and not a story about propaganda. It is a story about numbers, systems, mistakes, and the difficult reality of justice in one of the largest criminal justice systems in the world. According to FBI statistics, the United States records roughly between 15,000 and 25,000 homicides every year, depending on economic conditions, crime waves, and social instability. In the early 1990s, America experienced one of the deadliest crime periods in modern history. In 1991 alone, more than 24,000 murders were recorded nationwide. After that, homicide rates slowly declined for many years. By 2014, the number had fallen to around 14,000 annually, and many experts believed the country had entered a safer era. But in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, murder rates suddenly increased again across many major cities. Social unrest, economic problems, gang conflicts, firearm availability, and reduced trust between communities and police all played a role. Some cities experienced increases of more than 30% in a single year. Since then, homicide numbers have started decreasing again, but thousands of killings still happen every year across America. Hollywood movies often portray murder as random violence, but in reality, most homicides follow recognizable patterns. In many cases, the victim actually knows the killer. A large number of murders involve domestic violence, gang rivalries, drug disputes, arguments between friends, former partners, or even family members. Young men between the ages of 18 and 35 remain statistically the most likely victims of homicide in many American cities. Firearms are involved in the majority of murder cases, and in some urban areas, guns account for more than 80% of homicides. One major reality of homicide investigations is that solving murders depends heavily on human cooperation. Technology, such as DNA testing, surveillance cameras, and phone tracking, has improved dramatically over the last few decades, but detectives still rely heavily on witnesses. If nobody talks, cases often remain unsolved. This became very visible in cities like Minneapolis after the unrest of 2020. Detectives reported that many witnesses were too afraid to cooperate or simply refused to speak to police. As a result, homicide investigations became much harder, even with modern technology. The FBI tracks something called the homicide clearance rate. A murder case is considered cleared when police arrest a suspect or identify someone strongly enough to officially close the investigation. However, a cleared case does not automatically mean the suspect was convicted in court. In the 1960s, America solved more than 90% of homicide cases. Today, the national clearance rate is much lower, usually somewhere between 50 and 65%, depending on the city and reporting methods. This means that in many years, thousands of murders remain officially unsolved. Some cities with severe gang violence have clearance rates below 40%, while smaller towns often solve nearly every homicide because investigators have fewer cases and stronger community cooperation. But solving a murder is only the beginning. Prosecutors must still convince a jury beyond reasonable doubt. Many cases collapse before conviction because evidence becomes weak, witnesses disappear, or jurors are unconvinced. Some suspects flee the country. Some investigations contain errors, and sometimes police arrest the wrong person entirely. This is one of the darkest and most controversial parts of the American justice system. Organizations such as the Innocence Project have uncovered hundreds of wrongful convictions, including murder cases where innocent people spent decades behind bars before DNA evidence proved they were not guilty. One famous example involved Anthony Porter from Chicago. In 1982, he was convicted of a double murder and sentenced to death. He came extremely close to execution before journalism students reinvestigated the case and discovered evidence pointing to another suspect. Porter was eventually released after spending more than 16 years in prison for crimes he did not commit. Cases like this exposed major flaws inside homicide investigations. False confessions, mistaken eyewitnesses, poor forensic science, racial bias, and prosecutorial misconduct have all contributed to wrongful convictions throughout American history. These revelations created a difficult question for society. What happens when the pressure to solve murders becomes stronger than the search for truth? Murder investigations are not just criminal cases. They are political and emotional pressure points. Families demand justice. Media attention increases public pressure, and police departments face criticism when cases remain unsolved. Former detectives have admitted that unsolved homicide cases damage the reputation of entire departments. Prosecutors also face enormous pressure to secure convictions because families want closure and communities want to feel safe. But defense lawyers argue that rushing investigations can lead to terrible mistakes. A quick arrest is not always the correct arrest. Another controversial issue is media attention. Not all murder victims receive equal coverage. Cases involving wealthy victims, children, serial killers, or attractive young women often dominate national headlines, while thousands of murders in poor neighborhoods receive little national attention. Criminologists sometimes refer to this imbalance as the missing white woman syndrome, where certain victims receive far more media focus than others. Because of this, public perception of crime can become distorted. Many people remember famous murder trials, such as O.J. Simpson or Ted Bundy, because television transformed them into massive national stories. But most murder victims are forgotten by the public within days. When discussing murder in America, people often focus on large cities. But experts warn that total murders and murder rates are very different things. A huge city may have more murders overall simply because millions of people live there, while smaller cities can have much higher homicide rates per capita. Cities such as St. Louis, Baltimore, Detroit, and New Orleans have repeatedly struggled with some of the highest murder rates in the nation. Researchers point to many overlapping causes, including poverty, gang activity, drug trafficking, illegal firearms, lack of economic opportunity, and long-term social inequality. But experts also warn against simplistic explanations because crime trends are influenced by many different factors at the same time. Even with advanced technology and enormous law enforcement resources, no justice system can solve every murder perfectly. Evidence disappears, witnesses lie, memories fade, and some killers are never identified. Yet despite its flaws, the American criminal justice system still processes thousands of homicide investigations every year. Many families do receive justice, many murderers are convicted, and many detectives spend entire careers trying to solve cases that others abandoned. But the statistics reveal a difficult reality. In America, murder is not only a human tragedy, it is also a test of institutions, a test of policing, courts, evidence, and truth itself. Every year, thousands of people are killed. Some cases are solved within hours, others remain mysteries forever. Some suspects are convicted, some are acquitted, and in rare but devastating situations, innocent people lose years of their lives for crimes they never committed. Behind every statistic is a family waiting for answers, and behind every closed case remains one important question: did justice actually win?